Paige Hartwell didn't hesitate. Her finger hovered over the screen for less than a second before she pressed the emergency call. "I need police at Marcos Bistro immediately," she said, her voice clipped, professional, unwavering. "There's a theft in progress." Across the kitchen, Brandon Wells stood beside the open safe. He didn't move. He didn't flinch. His worn denim jacket hung loosely from his shoulders, and a corner of folded cash peeked from his back pocket. He looked tired in a way that went beyond long hours, tired down to the bone, the kind of exhaustion that settles into a person after years of loss. Through the glass door leading to the parking lot, a little girl pressed her small hands against the window. Her breath fogged the glass as silent tears rolled down her cheeks. She didn't understand everything happening inside, but she knew fear. She knew those flashing lights would mean something bad. Paige believed she was doing the right thing. In her mind, she was protecting the business from a desperate man. What she didn't notice was the sudden stillness in the kitchen. The way the longtime staff avoided her eyes. The way the head chef's face drained of color. What she didn't know was that this single decision, made without a single question, would unravel everything she believed about herself. 3 hours earlier, Marcos Bistro had been alive with the last pulse of a Monday dinner rush. Pans clanged, orders were called, steam curled upward, carrying the smell of garlic and oil. Brandon moved quietly at the dish station, sleeves rolled up, hands submerged in scalding water. He scrubbed with steady rhythm, methodical and uncomplaining. His knuckles were red, skin cracked and raw, but he never slowed down. He always arrived early, always stayed late, never asked for overtime, never took more than the bare minimum break. The staff noticed, but they didn't pry. There was something about Brandon that discouraged questions, not coldness, not rudeness, just a heaviness that seemed sacred, like grief you didn't touch unless invited. Paige watched him from near the pass, arms crossed over her perfectly pressed blouse. She'd been managing Marcos for exactly 2 months, hired through a recruiting agency after submitting her resume to an anonymous email. The owner, she'd been told, preferred distance. Reports by email, no face-to-face involvement. She liked that. Distance meant authority, control, efficiency. In her short time there, Paige had already made changes. She cut hours, renegotiated supplier contracts, eliminated paid breaks longer than 5 minutes. She enforced rules with precision and punished deviation without hesitation. To her, restaurants failed because they were too soft. Too emotional. She believed structure mattered more than sentiment. People like Brandon, she thought, needed firm oversight. People who shuffled through life with tired eyes and threadbare clothes were risks. Liabilities. Problems waiting to happen. Brandon felt her gaze on his back but didn't look up. He'd felt it for weeks. He kept scrubbing. Outside, Ruby sat in the passenger seat of a battered 1998 Honda Civic. Her math workbook rested on her knees, the dome light casting a soft yellow glow. Waiting in the car had become routine. She read. She drew. She did homework. She watched the kitchen window for her father's shadow. She knew he was tired. He was always tired now. Ever since her mom died, tired had become the normal state of things. Tired mornings. Tired dinners. Tired bedtime stories where he sometimes fell asleep mid-sentence. Ruby understood more than her father realized. She knew they were poor now. She knew the big house was gone. She knew the restaurant was all they had left, even if she didn't fully understand why her dad worked. They're like this. She only knew one thing for sure. He wanted to be close to her. Always close. When the rush ended, Paige dismissed the servers with curt nods and sharp instructions. She moved through the dining room checking boxes on her clipboard, correcting chairs, counting receipts. Brandon dried his hands and glanced at the clock. 9:45. Ruby had been waiting nearly 3 hours. Guilt tightened in his chest, but he swallowed it down. This was the deal he'd made with himself. Be invisible, work hard, keep Ruby safe and close. He went to his locker and pulled out his jacket and wallet. The leather was cracked, edges worn smooth from years of use. Inside was $300 in cash, money he'd withdrawn that afternoon after weeks of saving. Ruby's school had sent home a notice about a field trip. Overnight. Science Museum. $75. He'd finally saved enough. As he turned to leave, he spotted a silver keychain on the floor near the office door. Carlos's. The head chef was always losing things. Brandon picked it up and walked toward the office to leave it on the desk. The door was slightly open. Inside, the safe stood ajar. Brandon stopped. The day's deposits were stacked neatly inside, untouched. Someone had forgotten to close it. Probably Paige, distracted by complaints about staffing shortages. Brandon stepped forward instinctively, reaching out to shut the safe, muscle memory guiding him. He'd done this hundreds of times before. Years ago. That was when Paige walked in. Her eyes took everything in at once. The open safe, the cash, Brandon's jacket, the money in his pocket. Her mind filled in the blanks instantly. There was no hesitation, no curiosity, only certainty. Brandon turned and saw her face. He knew exactly what she thought. He opened his mouth to speak, then stopped. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe pride, maybe something deeper. He closed his mouth and waited. "Step away from the safe," Paige said. He did. "I'm giving you one chance to put back whatever you took." He didn't move. In his silence, Paige heard guilt. She pressed call. Carlos rushed in, panic in his eyes. "Paige, wait, stay out of this." The servers gathered. One tried to speak. Paige silenced her too. None of them could say what they knew. Brandon had asked them not to. And so they stood there, helpless, as sirens approached. Outside, Ruby saw the lights. Red, blue. Fear seized her. She dropped her workbook and ran to the door, pressing her hands against the glass. Inside, officers arrived. Brandon complied quietly as handcuffs snapped shut. Ruby's scream tore through the kitchen as she ran inside and clung to his legs. "He didn't do anything," she cried. Brandon met her eyes. "It's okay, baby." Paige watched, unsettled but resolute. Theft was theft. Tragedy didn't excuse crime. Then the lawyer arrived. The truth fell like a hammer. Brandon Wells, owner, 15 years. The cuffs came off. Ruby collapsed into her father's arms. Paige stood frozen, shame crashing over her in waves. Brandon could have destroyed her. Instead, he chose restraint. The days that followed changed everything. Paige worked every position. She learned what it meant to stand for 10 hours. To scrub until your hands burned. To be unseen. She learned names, stories, lives. She learned who Brandon really was. And slowly, painfully, she learned who she had been. By the time the month ended, Marcos was different. And so was she. Months later, the restaurant thrived. Ruby laughed freely. Brandon found peace in small moments. And Paige understood something she never had before. Power wasn't control, it was compassion. And sometimes, the man washing dishes was the one teaching everyone how to be human.